All right, I'm here with Jay Goldberg. He's our guy in Ontario, and he's been talking to a lot of reporters because Premier Doug Ford said he's going to cut gas taxes. Politicians across most of the rest of the country are looking at ways to jack up those costs. Here's a little clip of Jay talking to Kitchener Today on the radio about this.
We got half of Ontarians in this province living $200 away from not being able to pay their bills at all. So this could be a big help. Obviously, it would have been nice if Premier Ford did this at the beginning of his mandate instead of right near the end. But we'll take the wins where we can get them.
And there is some talk that he would expand that even further were the federal government to do something similar. But we know governments aren't all that interested in giving up revenue. So
no, and I would say I think pigs will fly before Justin Trudeau cuts the gas tax. You know, he's been all about raising taxes at the pumps. They've implemented their carbon tax, and actually the carbon tax was increased not once but twice during the global pandemic. So the federal government is part of the reason through their carbon tax that gas prices are up. 8.8 cents a liter is us paying carbon taxes. And by 2030, if the carbon tax goes fully into effect, we'll be paying $1.90 a liter for gas. So this tax cut from Ford is welcome, but I think the Premier is making a point when he's suggesting that, Ontario shouldn't be the only level of government looking to give drivers relief, but I think it's highly unlikely to see Prime Minister Trudeau follow suit at all.
All right, Jay. So reporters always like to talk about politics, but let's get into the numbers. Premier Doug Ford, how much does he say he's going to cut gas taxes by?
Well, Doug Ford's saying he's going to cut the gas tax by 5.7 cents a liter. That's a commitment he made to voters in the last election. It's been 3 years, and he's finally announcing that he's going to follow through on that. That's great news for drivers. If you're filling up your minivan once a week over the course of the year, that's going to save you more than $200. And, with Canadians, we know that 50% of Canadians are saying that they're about $200 away from not being able to pay their bills. So this could make a big difference for a lot of people. And it's really great to see Ford promising that he's going to deliver.
Yeah, it's interesting. It would save people money at the pump, but it actually saves you money other places too, because everything in the grocery store, there's some fuel costs built into that as well. Ultimately, those pineapples had to get trucked there from somewhere, right? But let's talk about how high are gas prices in Ontario right now? How high are those prices? How high are the taxes?
Well, Todd, I just filled up the car. We were looking at about $1.42, and we have 48 cents out of every liter is tax here in Ontario. So, if we didn't have any tax, even though the price of oil is going up, gas prices are going up, we would still have gas for less than $1 a liter. So that shows you, more than a third virtually of the price of gas is simply taxes.
Okay, so let's deal with some pretty routine objections here. How can the province cut taxes when it's running a deficit? How's that going to work?
Yeah, I hear that question a lot, and the question should be, where can we make sure that we can deliver on tax cuts? And the way to do that, of course, is to lower spending in areas where it should be lower. Compared to our pre-pandemic levels, our spending is way up in Ontario. I just wrote an op-ed that if we returned non-health and long-term care spending back to the levels they were right before the pandemic, we could save $10.5 billion a year. That doesn't even begin to mention, corporate welfare. We gave $300 million to the Ford Motor Company, their Fortune 500 company, $55 million to Maple Leaf Foods. They're also quite well off. We're giving free money to political parties. So there's a lot of things we could do in the province to change course, but definitely returning spending to pre-pandemic levels, that would give you a lot of room to play with in terms of both lowering the deficit and being able to deliver on tax relief.
Yeah, I think what you're saying there is so important. A lot of people look at the deficit and think the only way to solve it is to get the government more money. But the reality is spending is the problem. Giving more money to the fire will just make the fire bigger. What we've got to do is get the spending under control. Okay, so here's the thing about politicians. We often describe them as leaders, but an awful lot of times they're just kind of looking to see where the parade's going and run to get to the front of it. A few weeks ago, Premier Ford, he made some vague comments saying that he might cut gas taxes. You jumped on it. You hit him right away with a press release saying, good to hear you say you're going to follow through on your promises. Let's get it done right now. I kind of feel like that kind of made a difference. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I've been talking about this gas tax cut since I came to the CTF. I think it's really important and can help a lot of people. And so when we heard Doug Ford say that, because he was confronted by reporters, gas prices are really high in Ontario. Taxpayers need relief. And so we jumped on that, absolutely. But I would say, we had CTF supporters send emails to Premier Ford encouraging him to follow through sooner. And I think that really helps. So definitely, I was out there talking a lot about this issue, really hammering it home, but I don't think I could have done it without the help of our supporters. So I got to give a real tip of the cap to them as well, and thank everybody for pushing Doug Ford to do this. It seemed that he needed a lot of pushing, but we're almost there.
Okay, so let's talk about a little bit of downside news here, though. If Ford does the right thing and lowers gas taxes, we know the friends in Ottawa in the Trudeau government, they're not so good with lower gas prices. What do you think is going to happen there? Are they just going to backfill this with a higher carbon tax?
Well, unfortunately, the Trudeau government doesn't seem to care about increasing gas prices and energy prices for Canadians. We saw during the pandemic, they increased the carbon tax not once, but twice. They're set to increase it again on April 1st. And so if we're talking about 5.7 cents a liter, even if the Trudeau government doesn't try to retaliate, and just raise the carbon tax by that amount, because they'll have alleged that Doug Ford kind of went against their green policies by cutting the gas tax. Even if they don't do that, we'll see within 2 or 3 years that the carbon tax hikes are going to eat up whatever kind of cut that Doug Ford has delivered. That is not at all to say that it shouldn't be delivered, because no matter how much the carbon tax goes up, if we get that 5.7 cents of relief at the provincial level, that will still lower prices, even with rising carbon taxes. But, that's really going to shift the debate. And I think that a lot of people in Ontario are going to be looking at Ottawa when they're seeing gas prices skyrocket even further. Once Doug Ford delivers on his commitment to lower gas prices, the attention is going to turn to Parliament Hill. And we're looking at, Franco did a great report looking at if we had 2030 tax levels in place right now, carbon tax levels, what would prices look like? Well, that's looking like $1.90 a liter. And so, that's a really scary thing for a lot of drivers. It's very unaffordable. Trying to take your kids to school or go to work, extremely expensive. It's going to increase prices by hundreds of dollars a year for all kinds of Ontarians. And so I think that it's a key step that once Premier Ford does this 5.7 cents cut, the attention is going to turn to Ottawa, and we're really going to have to focus on the carbon tax as the source of our high prices. And as you said, it's not just prices to fill up your car, it's raising the price of everything, including that pineapple you're picking up at the supermarket.
It's good on pizza. I don't care what anybody says. Pineapple definitely does belong on pizza.
I love it too.
There you go. There you go. You're a smart guy. That's why we got you here. Listen, we're never going to run out of fights. Good to see Premier Ford on the right track here. Jay Goldberg's going to be right behind him, pushing him to get her done. He's talking. He's moving the right direction. Now we need to see it all the way done. In the meantime, though, the next fight will be with Ottawa. I don't think we're ever going to run out of work. Thanks a lot, Jay.
It's Todd.
Hi, I'm Scott Hennig, President of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. If you've got another minute, I'd like to ask you to think about the one person you know that would really enjoy listening to this podcast. Do us a favor and do them a favor and send them a quick note to let them know about it. At the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, we believe there is power in numbers. That's why we've worked so hard to build an army of taxpayers who are ready to push back. And we did it because people like you shared our work with that one person that they knew would really appreciate taking part. Thanks for listening, and thanks for doing your part to make Canada a better place.